First of all, how do they run against Trump without making him an even larger figure by going after him? What does a Chris Christie do, for instance, whose whole campaign is to be the one person left standing who's going hard against Donald Trump when Donald Trump's not present?
Yeah, I don't know that what Chris Christie does really matters that much, Andrea. I think that if you look at polls, Republican primary voters feel better about Robert F. Kennedy Jr., the Democrat, because of his anti-vaccine stance than they do about Chris Christie and Mike Pence. These are folks that Republican voters are just not interested in hearing from. And look, I would even just go a little bit further than Garrett went. The first debate ended up becoming absolutely meaningless. You're showing the poll numbers on the screen now. If you look at the polling averages, Donald Trump stayed absolutely steady. Ron DeSantis ticked down a little bit. Nikki Haley went up from, 5 to 7. Tim Scott went down a little bit. All of that is nothing. I mean, Nikki Haley, I guess she got a little bump, but she's losing by 45 points. And this is a blowout. And none of these candidates, to make an electability argument when Donald Trump is tied with Joe Biden in the national polls, no Republican voters are buying that. Like that dog isn't hunting. So unless these men and women go on stage tonight and actually deliver a forceful argument against Trump that might appeal to Republican primary voters, then what are we doing here? This is just a waste of everybody's time.
Well, David Jolly, was it a waste of time for Ron DeSantis since he really didn't move the needle at all? If anything, moved it down after the first debate. What does he have to do? What is his mission tonight?
Yeah, Andrea, I agree with Tim. This is a big night for each of the candidates, but likely not a big night for the race. It is a 40-point race. Nothing is moving that. But if you are these candidates, this is your opportunity to try to solidify a second place in this race and maybe set yourself up for a future run or a future position. I think what Ron DeSantis or Nikki Haley or any candidate could try tonight that has not been done is to speak not to the moderators, speak not to each other on the stage, go straight to the Republican voters and make your earnest and sincere case as to why you are the better vessel for MAGA Nation and for Republicanism than Donald Trump. Is it electability? Is it something else? Go straight to the voters and say, I am the person to make this case to Joe Biden. Will it be enough? Probably not. But if you're just going at each other on the stage, sure, you might secure that number 2 spot, but that number 2 spot is still 40 points behind the front runner, Donald Trump.
And if Donald Trump is the biggest figure overshadowing and another figure overshadowing this debate is Maria Teresa, is Ronald Reagan, of course, who was the greatest performer of any of the recent modern presidents. So what happens also with the Univision anchor who is co-moderating the debate? It's a Fox debate. President Biden's approval with Latino voters, it's only 43%. That's not great. There could be an opening for one of these Republican candidates to break through, perhaps, with Latino voters.
Andrea, it wasn't lost on me the irony that they're doing it at the Ronald Reagan Library. If folks can remember back when Ronald Reagan was debating then President nominee Bush, they were fighting for the Latino vote. They were talking about undocumented. They were talking about compassionate conservatism. And where the party has come since then, it's unrecognizable to many Republicans. And I do think while people are saying that there is a Latino defection to the Republican Party, poll after poll and turnout after turnout shows that that's actually a mirage. There's a slight shift among older voters in the Latino community, sure, but the majority of Latinos are under the age of 30. And the people that are open to democratic ideals and are very much aligned with Biden, but just don't know it, are young people. And so I think this is an opportunity for everybody to not only share the stage, sure, and debate among how they are ideally not like the MAGA Republicans if they have a case to win a marginal amount of Latino voters. But at the same time, I don't think it's a waste at all, because I also think that it's an opportunity for the American people to recognize once again what is at stake next election. And what is at stake is absolutely our democracy. And when you talk to Latino voters, about the democratic ideals and the reason many of their families fled anti-democratic governments, they get it. I do think it's an opportunity at the same time for the Democrats to double down and recognize that it's not enough to wink at the Latino community, but real investment among young Latino youth is what's going to shore up the opportunity for defending our democracy come November. It's good for the American public to hear these individuals because none of them have been able to espouse democratic ideals in a way that is modern and future looking. So that's what I'm looking for. I'm looking to see who, is there a Nikki Haley moment where she not only snubs Vivek, but also comes out on the right side of democracy and possibly talks about the importance of welcoming immigrants and not demagoguing them.
Tim Miller, who is most likely to be forward-leaning on that subject? Nikki Haley, coming from an immigrant family?
Boy, I think that most of those candidates are worried that, about covering their right flank and their MAGA flank. You saw DeSantis go hard on this. I mean, Nikki Haley and Tim Scott have not exactly been representing Bush-McCainism on immigration. So, maybe one of the also ran candidates, Chris Christie, but I'm not seeing it right now. I think the party is pretty all in on the pivot towards a more nationalist, anti-immigrant view. I would love to be surprised about that, but I'm not holding my breath.